Haunted Chocolatier was first announced in October 2021. The announcement included a gameplay trailer showcasing the game's ghostly themes and chocolate making mechanics. That is the trailer you are watching right now. So for the purpose of this video, we are going to show huge amounts of Haunted Chocolatier material in the hopes that we can get a very good grasp of what kind of game this is going to be. Now, from listening to Concerned Ape talk about this game for quite some time over the years, we know that this game is going to have a very cozy vibe, very similar to Stardew Valley, but the combat mechanics are going to dramatically change, and as we can see, the combat in Haunted Chocolatier is much more fluid, with a much bigger emphasis on ranged combat and defense, as your character can now wield an offhand item. For now, all we get is a shield, but I'm pretty sure as you progress through a game like this, you'll be able to get a lot more things than a shield to play around with. The game also features a shop that you manage, and you also have your ghostly friends to help you along the way. The primary purpose of this game is to make chocolate, build relationships with all of the NPCs that Haunted Chocolatier has to offer. We even have what looks like a forge area here, and we have Burke, an NPC who looks like Clint. Perhaps he can upgrade tools and armor. The game is going to have a very similar relationship system to that of Stardew Valley. As we can see, we're just giving an NPC a gift right here, and a love heart pops up over their head. When you take the current themes into consideration and the music, I get great vibes about sitting down, having a lovely hot chocolate, and then crawling into bed in a cozy dark room. Haunted Chocolatier is still in development, and it could be many more years until we see its full release. This is actually a good thing, because this just shows that Concerned Ape is very serious about the success of this game. Concerned Ape loves his fans. He has such a huge heart for his first game, Stardew Valley, so you can be 100% sure that he is going to show Haunted Chocolatier that same love and level of respect that it deserves. So when this game does get released, we can be absolutely sure that it's going to be very polished, very cozy, and extremely wholesome. Let's take a look at the new character inventory screen here. As we can see, we have the hat, the main hand weapon, and the offhand weapon, but there's a lot more slots than what you have in Stardew Valley. There's 2 ring slots. There's also a slot for a top and a pants, but look at the bottom. There's a slot for the belt, a slot for shoes, and what looks like on the right there, a slot for socks. Now, Concerned Ape did mention there 1 or 2 years ago that he played Diablo and he absolutely loves the game. So I am now of the opinion that he's going to take some inspiration from Diablo when it comes to equipping your character with items. It's now my belief that every single item you equip except the top and the pants are going to yield some sort of stats to your character. What kind of stats they will yield, we don't know just yet. If I had to hazard a guess, besides the usual attack, defense, and how many hit points your character has, we can also factor in other stats that a lot of RPG games have, such as critical strike damage, resistances, and things like that. We also have magical defense along with physical defense. So it's going to be very interesting to see when this game does come out, how each slot will help your character when it comes to the myriad of enemies you're going to be fighting in this game. And from looking at all the screenshots we've seen so far, it looks like there's going to be huge amounts of enemy groups in this game, similar to Diablo. Let's take a look. Now, from looking at the next image here, we have huge amounts of slimes, all slightly different colours. There's also a weird looking Karibo type enemy there at the top centre as well. But if you take a look at the sheer amount of slimes that you have here, there will more than likely be some sort of a skills system put in place that will allow you to make short work of all these groups. So when it comes to combat in Haunted Chocolatier, I think Concerned Ape is going to scale it up dramatically. I think if you want to get your hands on some of the most exotic recipes this game has to offer, you're going to have to go into the hardest dungeons. And a lot of these dungeons are going to have huge waves of monsters, and that's where all your gear is going to come into play. That's where all your skills are going to come into play. Now, if we take a look at some of the ingredients here, we have chocolate bar and simple truffle. The chocolate bar will heal you for 10 HP. The simple truffle will fortify your health for 8 hours. So again, all these things are related to health, they're related to survival. What I don't see here are things related to stamina. When you look at Stardew Valley, when you look at any survival game outside of the Stardew Valley bracket, one of the things that always holds you back at the very beginning is how much you can do every single day. And Stardew Valley makes that quite clear. Obviously, the game doesn't want to overload you on day one, so it's only going to throw a few forageables at you, a few other bits and bobs that allows you to regain some stamina, but unless you know exactly how all the game mechanics work, or you start resetting days left, right and centre, there's not a whole lot you can do on day one, apart from explore the valley, talk to the NPCs. But if you take a look at this game, what I've seen so far, it's going to be a combination of making chocolate, managing a shop, and fighting hordes of enemies. And I'm all about that, but I don't think we're going to see the farming mechanics that Stardew Valley had. I think this is going to be a faster paced game. I think it's going to be a more whimsical combat orientated game, but I still think it's going to have that lovely cozy vibe. But let me know in your opinions in the comments. Let's take a look at some of the boss fights we're going to be encountering in this game. At the moment, we just have information on one boss, and this is a giant bee. Now I imagine the whole premise behind this is that you need honey to make really nice chocolate recipes, and you're going to have to fight this bee and all of its minions to get your hands on that lovely luxurious honey. Concerned Abe is a huge fan of Warcraft 3, Warcraft 2. He understands the world of Warcraft universe. So he could also take inspiration from that, and he could even go as far as having raids in Haunted Chocolatier. Could you imagine assembling 10 friends or 20 friends going into a dungeon like this and fighting bosses for tons of gear? That probably won't be the case, but wouldn't it be so cool if you could get together with loads of your friends and farm these bosses for the best gear around and use that gear to make the ultimate chocolate recipes? For the next image, I think what this building represents is a lookout. If you take a look at the very top of the building, jutting out from the roof there is a real big telescope. If you also take a look at the window, just inside you'll see a shadow, and that looks like another telescope to me. So you have a telescope that's looking out right and a telescope that's looking out left, and you probably have a telescope that's looking straight out over the mountains as well. But what's even more interesting is a sign just at the bottom to the left there, and it says fire risk, and there's an arrow, and right now that arrow is all the way over to the right in the red zone. So I believe there's going to be some sort of a high risk, high reward mechanic in Haunted Chocolatier, and if you decide to go to a certain location where the fire risk is extremely high, I think there's a chance you can encounter some very exotic things, and they might drop very interesting items, or you might be able to obtain some very exotic recipes you can use in the art of making chocolate. But let me know what your opinions are on that in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Speaking of fire risk, if we take a look at the next image here, just to the very left, we can see what looks like some sort of a sprite or a fire sprite. Also on the top left hand side of the screen, I'm pretty sure that's going to be your HP. It's 20 out of 20 right now. To the top right, we have your gold, 10,000. But I don't see a stamina bar anywhere, and that's just kind of pointing back to my previous conversation about stamina. Now, if we take a look at the bottom left, we have a bow. We have what seems to be the shield just to the left of that, and what seems to be your main hand weapon to the left of that, and there's some sort of a gift box on the right. So I believe that's like a little hotbar down there, and you can very quickly toggle between what items you want to use, and you can customize that hotbar. But if we take a look at some of the assets he's using here in this image, look at the wood stumps. They're taken directly out of Stardew Valley. So my next question is, do you think Concerned Ape, to save time, will use a lot of assets from Stardew Valley and incorporate them into Haunted Chocolatier? Or do you think that these are just placeholder assets right now, and eventually he'll swap them out for original assets to Haunted Chocolatier only? Or maybe he'll keep in some of the same assets because he wants to link Haunted Chocolatier to the Stardew Valley universe, so have both worlds in the same universe. Taking a look at the next image, as we can see, there's a lot of assets here that have been taken straight out of Stardew Valley. Let's start with the dwarf scrolls. Just above your character's exclamation mark, you can see the red dwarf scroll and the yellow dwarf scroll. I wonder, is this intentional, and does Concerned Ape actually have an agenda here where he wants to weave a lot of the Stardew Valley history, a lot of the Stardew Valley whimsy into Haunted Chocolatier? Because when you play Stardew Valley, and when you take a look at the dwarfs, you take a look at Krobus, you take a look at all the shadow monsters and skull caverns and all of the galaxy weapons and the prismatic shards which are related to the cosmos. There's a lot of whimsical going on there, you know, and he has mentioned putting more whimsy in this game compared to Stardew Valley. So I'm now wondering, are we going to see a lot of the elements of Stardew Valley get woven into this game to make it more magical? Even if we take a look at what I believe is the blacksmith, Burke, he might even be a dwarf. You just don't know right now, but it's very interesting to think about it. If you take a look at just to the right of your character, just below the truffle, that asset there, that's the mudstone from Stardew Valley. That's a mineral that you have to donate to the museum. So that's one more item that's directly related to Stardew Valley. If you take a look at the far left of the room, you'll notice the large cow's milk. Now fair enough, cows are everywhere, but just up above from that, look at the spoon there. That, my friends, is the rusty spoon, an artifact from Stardew Valley. Let's talk about the ghosts. This game isn't called Chocolatier, it is called Haunted Chocolatier. So you are basically a chocolatier with a twist. Now I believe this game is going to have some sort of a management system, and it will be up to you to guide these ghosts, to give them tasks. As we can see, if we take a look at this room here, it looks to me like they're processing materials in this room. Because if you take a look at the table, there's 3 slots on that table right now, and there's one ghost holding what looks like maybe it's honey from the bees, maybe it's something else entirely. But I believe this isn't going to be a research room. I believe this is a room where you come in, click on that book that's kind of in this top center of the room there, and you get your ghosts to craft very specific items based on resources that you have collected all around the Haunted Chocolatier maps. Now that's just my opinion, but again, let me know yours in the comments. From looking at the trailer and from looking at this image, it now seems to me that you can very easily modify what kind of a shop you want, what kind of a storefront you want, what kind of chocolate you want to sell, and what you want your ghosts to do. From this image here, there's actually a lot going on. I can see a total of 5 ghosts there at the moment. One is behind the cash register, and that one is simply taking money off customers that want to buy the chocolate. The other couple of ghosts seem to be restocking the shelves for you, and if you take a look at the ghost on the very top left there, that ghost looks to be going into the back, maybe into the storeroom, to get more chocolate perhaps to bring back out to the shelves. And I believe it'll be up to you to give all of these ghosts individual tasks. Let's take a look at the next image. This is one of the most interesting images I have come across so far. Now if we look very closely at the back there, okay, we seem to have 3 collections, book collections. One has an icon of the moon, the one on the very right has an icon of the sun, and the one in the middle has something that I'm not too sure what it is. But if you look at the very top of the middle, you see a skeleton there, okay? I believe these are going to be some sort of bundles that you need to complete, similar to the Stardew Valley Community Center. And I believe all of the items you need to complete the bundles on the left will relate to doing something at night time. The same applies for the one on the right there. You have to do something during the day, and the one in the middle will more than likely revolve around doing some sort of a dungeon or fighting some sort of enemy or tons of enemies to complete that one. And that's just my theory on that. I would love to know your theories in the comments. Again, I could be totally wrong with all these things. You know, I could be totally wrong. But I've watched the trailer so many times and I've spent so much time looking at these images and I've played so much Stardew Valley. So I'd like to say I kinda know how Concerned Ape thinks, how he designs his games. And he is absolutely going to take a lot of inspiration from Stardew Valley. He's going to take the things that work and bring them over to this game. So I'd be very surprised if we didn't have some sort of a collection or bundles we had to complete similar to the community center. The next image is also a very interesting image to me. It shows someone here that everyone says it's going to be your grandpa. This could be anyone. There's no confirmation that it's your grandpa. He does say that he had the most terrible dream. Now I know he does look very similar to the grandpa at the start of Stardew Valley before he passes away, but we just don't have anything else on this person yet. Now I imagine it's going to be some sort of a father figure or a grandpa figure because you're up in his room, it's very personal, you know, and he's also saying I had the most terrible dream, you know, so I'm getting grandpa vibes from looking at it. The big question I have is this going to be one of the first scenes in the game and you're going to start off with the grandpa death, you know? Or is this going to be an NPC that you get to foster a very good relationship with? Are you going to have lots of events with this NPC? How critical is this NPC to the game of Haunted Chocolatier? I just can't wait to find out when the game comes out. So from looking at the next image, it looks like the chocolate factory or the chocolate shop is going to be next or very close to your home. So you're going to have two separate buildings. And I imagine you will be given the option to expand upon those buildings, which would be very nice. Similar to how you can get Robin in Stardew Valley to upgrade your house to make it way bigger. Similar to how you can get Robin to put barns on your farm, coops on your farm, you know, slime hutches on your farm, other bits and pieces on your farm. So it would be nice if you can not only modify your big mansion house, but also modify the chocolate shop to make it bigger. I imagine you can. I imagine an end game in Haunted Chocolatier will be something like a huge chocolate shop. Something along the lines of, you know, Willy Wonka's chocolate factory maybe. You're going to have huge amounts of ghosts working for you. You're going to have ghosts processing things. You're going to have ghosts making things, cooking things up for you. You're going to have ghosts researching things. And while the ghosts are doing that and managing the shop, you're going to be dungeon delving. You're going to be fighting the most ferocious monsters that have set foot on these lands. But again, let me know what you think about all this. Let me know what you think about all the images. And thanks a million for watching this video. I hope you all have a great week, and I will see you very soon for more than likely the next Stardew Valley video until Haunted Chocolatier comes out. Have a good one, everyone.